Hello, good evening, and welcome to another Stacey West Live. It's a little bit warm out there, so instead of going in the bar, I'm back in the office. I did go and have a little look in the bar. It's a little bit like a furnace. I would have had to have sat in there in my budgie smugglers, and I'm not sure that's really something that you want to see. So I've put on my what was a birthday present for me on Poacher's 10th birthday. So I'm all club logoed up and ready to go. So at the moment we're talking the Imps land TJ Eyoma. But as you know, with some of these Stacey West's lives, they're often coincided with something else. The club have just put a tweet out, 2 London buses going past each other at once. Well, we've got one signing right here to talk about up until 5:05 at the very, very least. So this morning we were told that City had signed Timothy TJ Eyoma from Spurs. Obviously, at the end of last season, he came in on loan and we didn't see him. He was another James Brown. You'll remember James Brown from signing and never playing at all. That was TJ. Now, the difference being this kid's got pedigree. He's won the World Cup at England under 17 level. Under 17 level. I think he was a European Championship finalist as well. So he's represented his country. Some Spurs fans this morning I've noticed saying that he was in line for a first team appearance there until very recently. Lots of high hopes for him. Interesting that he was labelled today as a right back who can play centre back, because when he first arrived, we had him down as a centre back. I think that probably hints at the position he's brought into play. It's going to be him or Aaron Lewis at right back. What we're going to see there down the flank is really dynamic players getting forward. And I think that fits with what Michael wants, doesn't it? I think he's slowly but surely building a heartbeat at the side, which is Liam Bridcut, James Jones, Conor McGrandles, hard workers. You know, you've got James Jones who's a ball player, Bridcut who's composed and comfortable on the ball. So there's the heartbeat. Now he's gone back into the defence. He's looking at shoring up the leakiness that we experienced last season. And we did. You know, we leaked some goals from set pieces, which were really quite damaging to us. And I actually think had we managed to tighten up a little bit more, we would probably have finished higher up the table. You look at the Rotherham defeat, which was 1-0. It was a weak ball into the box. You look at Portsmouth, you know, we went 1-0 down and really lost the balance of the game from a silly free kick. So we're giving silly free kicks away. When the balls were delivered into the box, we didn't deal with them. So he's going to be looking at shoring that up. Who knows? Maybe we'll know a little bit more about that in 3 minutes. But in terms of attacking, it's going to be very much build from the back. And when you have to build from the back, you're looking at players out wide who are predominantly more wing backs, more attacking, full of energy, can get up and down really quickly. And that's what this boy is, TJ Eyoma. So for those of you who haven't seen, I do have a picture of TJ here for you. It's the club issue one. There he is. He looks resplendent in that new retro kit that's growing on me, and it will need to, because I'm growing myself, so it will need to get bigger. So yeah, that's TJ Eyoma. Really interesting signing. I don't think he'll be the last this week. From what the club is suggesting, and I think it's quite clear he's not even going to be the last for today. But I can see us bringing in more players this week. I think now Michael's back in training. Now the boys are back there. Now certain earners have been shifted on in the likes of Jack Payne. You know, it's into overdrive. We need to get some bodies in particularly quickly. Okay, so we're at 1:05 now. So just a little bit of housekeeping. This should be going out live on YouTube. Now, I didn't used to be a technophobe, but technology's kind of gone that way, and I've gone that way a little bit with it. So if it's not going out on YouTube, my apologies. If it is, it's another first. Broadcasting live on 3 different platforms. So keep an eye on that club official channel, because they've tweeted 2 buses passing each other. Now that's cryptic, but it's not particularly cryptic, is it? You wait all the time for 1 bus and 2 come along. But right now, you know, we're getting buses every couple of days. I seem to be filming myself talking about a new signing with alarming regularity. Liam Bridcut was a huge signing for this club. TJ Eyoma is what I would call more of a fringe signing. He may well be a player who plays regular football for us, but he's a loan signing. He's going to kind of fill the squad out. He's going to add competition, but he's not going to be the core nucleus that Michael's looking to take us forward. At the end of the season, he will go back to Spurs, but we're going to be signing players who don't. So let's have a quick look in the comments. Gav, no, it's not your shirt, mate. It has got your initials on it, but it absolutely isn't your shirt. Accrington away, yeah, that cost us, Adam. Defensively, we were terrible at Accrington away, and we should definitely have won. Now, there has been an official club announcement, so we'll leave it to Kev McCarthy, shall we? Adam Jackson has signed for Lincoln City from Scottish Premier League side Hibernian. Now, there'll be an article going live very, very shortly on my other site. But we've got even a picture of Adam Jackson as well. So here he is. This is who we've signed. The guy down making the sliding tackle there on Joe Linton. His name's Adam Jackson. He's 26 years old and he plays centre-back. Plenty of people have been talking about Adam Jackson signing for us this over the weekend, so it's not been a massive secret, but I think one or two people looked at it and thought, well, why would he come here? Hibernian are currently top of the Scottish Premier League, so it's probably the first time that Lincoln have signed a player who's coming from the top team in their particular country. So who is Adam Jackson? He's a former England under-16 to under-19 international. He plays right centre-back predominantly, but he can also play left centre-back. But all last season he was playing right centre-back for Hibernian under Paul Heckingbottom and Jack Ross. He played in the Scottish League Cup final against Celtic. I think he made 20-odd appearances last season, but he fell out of favour. Oddly, in February, Jack Ross said that he would be the first name on the team sheet for Hibs. And you bear in mind that they've only played a handful of games since then. He's now out of favour. Such is football. So Jackson, as well as playing for England under 16s through to under 19s, he was originally on the books of Middlesbrough. He had 4 or 5 seasons with them without breaking through. Spent time on loan at Halifax in the National League, Coventry, where he didn't kick a ball, and then joined Hartlepool and played League Two football for them the year before Danny and Nicky joined us. Was quite successful there. I think he played 33 times for Hartlepool, was quite highly regarded, and at the end of his Middlesbrough contract, he then moved to Barnsley. He had 2 seasons in the Championship with Barnsley. Across those 2 seasons, he played 33 games. Now, bear in mind, this is a 22, 23-year-old centre-half coming out of League Two, essentially. I know he's come from a Premier League club, but that's where he played his football. When they were relegated, he was then part of the team that finished second in the Championship. He did only play a handful of games that season under Daniel Stendel, but Daniel Stendel was then keen to keep him at the club as they moved into the Championship. So this is a player who has got supposed top-end League One, lower-end Championship ability. Unfortunately, he chose, well, I say unfortunately, and I suppose it is fortunate or not, but he chose not to sign for Barnsley. He chose to move to Hibernian and work with Paul Heckingbottom, who had given him those 2 seasons of Championship football at Barnsley. As I say, played 22 games last season for Hibernian, but he joins us as a 26-year-old with 102 senior appearances and 8 goals. I'm not even reading this off a prompt card, by the way. It's all in here. I'll tell you, if I could remember important things, my partner said I could have been a doctor or something like that, but, there we go. She's looking at me now. So that's Adam Jackson. Look, this is a defender who I've put a piece up on the site already that you'll be able to see. This is a defender who, in the air, is probably comparable or was comparable for Hibernian to Cian Bolger for us. So he's a tall player, he's commanding in the air. He wins plenty of his aerial duels. I think it's 70% of his aerial duels he won. His tackling, his distribution, his tackling and his duels, again, comparable with Cian for us last season. And I think Cian had a really good season for us. But where Adam Jackson is really going to stand out, I think, is passing the ball. I think it's when you look at his passing stats, his accuracy was far in excess of many of our centre backs. Certainly, in terms of his forward passing, he was particularly accurate. Delivered forward balls with more regularity than some of our defenders. I know that we tended to play against the back, and doing comparison stats is tough when you've got kind of different styles and things like that. But Adam Jackson's certainly a player that can distribute the ball. I think when you've come from the likes of Middlesbrough and you've come through the England youth setups as well, it gives you a certain amount of finesse and it teaches you to play a certain way. What you then got to do as a player is go on and put that into practice in senior football. And we talk about players like Timothy Eyoma coming in. We talk about players who have got England or have got youth experience, the likes of Anthony Scully, the likes of Zach Elbazedi. Those players have got to put that pedigree and turn it into a senior career. Adam Jackson has. He's 26 years old. He's played in the Championship. He's played in the SPFL. Big signing for the club, I think. Important signing because it brings something else to the central defensive area. People will probably say experience, but with 102 games, he's probably played half as many games as James Jones. He's 2 years older. So I think in terms of senior football experience, it's here or there. But I don't think it's always the sort of players we're signing, not always about experience. I think Adam Jackson is more comparable in terms of the method to Jack Payne, in that he's a player who has played at the higher level. He's a player that has reached a certain age, but still has potential resale value, and I think that's important. Let's face it, if Jackson comes in and plays one season for us and he's outstanding, there's no reason why next year at this time he can't be in a similar position to Rob Dickie. Dickie is a ball playing centre back, good in the air, had a great season for Oxford, and people are talking about £3 million for it. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Jackson, but I'm saying he's kind of got that sort of potential rather than the 17 or 18-year-old coming in and delivering that sort of potential. So it's a little bit different. So that's Adam Jackson. That's our new signing. No doubt there'll be all sorts of stuff on the official club channels, so you'll be able to see interviews with him. I'm sure he's going to talk up the club. He's going to talk up the opportunity to work with Michael Appleton. So it's going to be interesting. I'm also quite pleased. Sorry, I've just seen this come up from Kate. I went on YouTube, saw Stacey was live, clicked like. I'm a simple person with simple taste. I'm delighted because I didn't know whether it was working on YouTube or not. So hello YouTube, first time for everything, isn't there? So that's a bit Borat, isn't it? So anyway, there we go. Adam Jackson from Hibernian has signed for Lincoln City, the second signing of the day in Timothy Eyoma. We started the day with a relatively threadbare defence, and we are now in a position where I think the defence is more or less complete. I can see maybe a utility player coming in, but if you look at the article that I did earlier on the current squad, we've got Lewis who can play right back, Alex Bradley potentially can play right back now, Timothy Eyoma, you've got Bolger, Monsma and Adam Jackson who can all play centre back. Melbourne can play centre back, Eyoma can play centre back. On the left side, you've got Teo Eden can play left back, and Melbourne can play left back as well. So we've got two left back, two right back, and then potentially up to 5 that can play centre back as well. So it feels like the defence is relatively stable now. It feels to me like that central midfield area with McGrandles and Jones and Bridcut is looking quite complete. There might be another attacking kind of midfielder in there. So there we go. Right, so we'll have a little bit of look at some of your feedback, and then we'll get back to enjoying the warm weather, or in my case, being ginger, avoiding it like the plague. Adam Bull, when you're launching your TikTok channel, I'll be honest, I don't really know what it is. But I like to say things in many more words than is needed, and I think TikTok is where you've got to try and condense things down. So I'm not sure that's really the platform for a gobshite like me. John Leonard, I agree, goalkeeper and another forward needed now, 100%. I have a feeling that we'll see some movement on some of these areas in the week, but certainly a goalkeeper, that's a no-brainer because we've got one, you've got to have 2. In terms of out-and-out strikers, I still feel we've only got 1 in Tom Hopper. You've got Anthony Scully, who's a bit of a utility man. I'm not sure he's a 9, so I certainly think there's another forward needed, and we all know who keeps getting mentioned for that. And I actually think another winger as well. George Grant can play out wide, Harry Anderson, Zach El-Bazedi, still question marks yet as to whether he's going to be a regular for me in League One. So I think that you probably need 1 more there. They say 2 for every position, so that would be interesting. Tim Day has said can't see much game time for Bolger. Potentially, I think Bolger he might be the unlucky loser again. But let's not forget he had a good season last season. What Bolger doesn't have is the distribution ability that the likes of Adam Jackson does seem to have. And if you look at stats, you can see that. But let's not rule Kean Bolger out. When he was at Fleetwood, he was being coveted by championship sides. I still think that there's a role for Bolger to play. I think, let's have a look. Sean Simmons, Stato Hutchinson, yes, but I don't wear a dressing gown. John Leonard thought it was Bruno Fernandes. If any of our players has the impact for us that Bruno Fernandes has had for Man United, we'll be laughing. So there we go. And good evening, Mr. Keneally, who even suggested that him and Kyle would like to take me away on holiday with them, but the rest of the family probably wouldn't appreciate it. So let's have a look. Is Walker realistic? Reese, I seriously don't know. We keep hearing the rumours. It didn't feel realistic for me, but if somebody had said to me 2 weeks ago, Adam Jackson from Hibs, that wouldn't have seemed realistic as well, because he's playing regular top flight Scottish football, and Scottish football can be hit or miss. You can get players come from Scotland, like John McGinn, for instance, who went to Villa, absolutely smash it, and then you get other players who are so highly rated in Scotland, like Dylan McGeoch, I think that's pronounced right, who went to Sunderland, should have smashed it, and then hasn't, has kind of gone back there. You look at Mark O'Hara, kind of came down. For me, was a really good player, but just didn't quite gel. So I think when you come from Scottish football, you can be hit or miss. But Adam Jackson is also an English-based player. He knows these leagues, so I think that he'll be a decent player for us. Let's have a look. Goalkeeper on loan from the Premiership, Tom Doyle, possibly. I think the loan market is something we're going to tap into increasingly to shore up the squad, as we have done with Eyoma. But I do think that there's a real leaning towards having our own players, and that's what I really like, is that Michael Appleton, the first time I met him, kind of said to me, half of the squad are going to go again. And he's really focused on bringing our own young players in and getting our own young players developed. And even for a 26-year-old like Adam Jackson, I think that's the same sort of philosophy. So more messages coming in. So pardon me dragging on. Chris Graham, afternoon, Gary. Things are looking good at the moment. Can't wait for the season to get underway. Good afternoon, Chris. Absolutely agree with you. I think things are looking good at the moment. The proof is always in the pudding. When a football's kicked, that's when you'll have a good feeling as to whether it's any good or not. But things do feel good. Things feel a lot more positive now than they did when our released or retained list came out. Certainly. So there we go. Kate Jackson, you're a man of knowledge. How much wood could a woodchucker chuck if a woodchucker could chuck wood? No idea. But I used to live in woods. So in a house, but it was in woodland at Chambers Woods. So finally, Adam Barlow, Ben Hutchinson. Yeah, he was gash, wasn't he? Oh dear, called us the worst fans in the world. He was an insult to the name. Genuinely, at one point, I actually wanted to go out on the field because I could have done better than him. We had another lad, if you remember, Andy Hutchinson, who also played for us, and I thought he was a better striker than Ben Hutchinson. Tell you, that guy, what a clown. Still eking a living somewhere in the non-league, I think, isn't he? So, Sean, any news on pre-season friendlies? No. I would imagine they'll all be behind closed doors. Most likely, probably not even at grounds, probably on training grounds and things like that. But I don't know. I might be wrong. Adam, the keep coming in here, don't you? You must like the sound of my voice like I do. Adam Barlow, don't think a lone keeper is good for us in the long run if there's no chance of signing them long term. I think in the long run, if you look at Ethan Ross, I think he might be the keeper to kind of fill the position. And it might be that we look to bring a young lone keeper in. And I think, again, football's a game of opinion, but at this level, you look at the likes of Kieran O'Hara, you look at the likes of Dean Henderson in the Championship, you look at the likes of Sam Johnston, who have all come out from Man United and have done really good jobs at their clubs. Who was the lad that went to Sheffield United? Is it Jamal Blackman? I'm not sure. There was another keeper, a Chelsea keeper went on loan, had a really good season. So young keepers coming in can certainly do a really good job, but you want to also be growing one of your own keepers as well. Potentially Ethan Ross is the player that I think could long term be our keeper, but the 1 year deal suggests to me that it's a bit of roll of the dice and see what happens. Kay Jackson, Henry VIII was a better striker than Ben Hutchinson, far more deadly. The thing is, Ben Hutchinson did score goals for us. He called us the worst fans in the world. I'm sure you remember that. And I was calling him everything under the sun. And then he scored. Might have been against Barnet. And I remember cheering him and singing his name. And my dad turned to me and called me a hypocrite. But at the end of the day, you cheer your own players, don't you? But now, as far as I'm concerned, he was rubbish. Reece Jenkins feels a bit like Leicester's pre-season when they won the season. A lot of players from all over had their potential tap. Maybe we can get the same rub of the green. Maybe we could sneak up the table. Again, do you know what? I mean, I saw one of these Twitter accounts did their predictions for the season already. And you think, we haven't got a complete squad. Loads of our rivals have signed one or two players and they're going to be bringing in 6, 7, 8 or 9. You can't do predictions at the moment. But that said, this here, not saying we'll smash the league, we could sneak up the table. There's just a feeling that potentially something is building. Potentially, now that the young players are being complemented with the sort of players that we despaired to see go. We didn't want to see Bozzy go. We didn't want to see Erdley go. We didn't want to see these senior professionals who had got senior football behind them leaving. But now Bridcut's come in with lots of football behind him. Jackson, 26 years old, played in divisions that we've above our level. Conor McGrandles even, suddenly we're replacing those players. We're replacing that level of experience. So I think that's particularly interesting. Reece, I'm sorry, I don't have any updates on Ellis. I'd love to be able to say he was coming back into the fold. His game time, I think, would be limited at the moment, given the players that we've signed. And I think what Ellis really, really needs is regular football. I think he would. And I look at Elliot Whitehouse's move yesterday. Elliot obviously joined Forest Green, called them a great club, by the way, when he arrived. That if that's not a case of rolling out a cliche that you don't really mean, then I don't know what is, because they're not a great club. Horncastle Town are probably a better club than Forest Green, in my opinion. They're an overly inflated village team that are only where they are because of a megalomaniac owner who seems to think that he can completely restructure football to be some sort of vegan, ecological bastion of joy, and he can't. But I'm delighted for Elliot because he's picked up a club in League Two where he will play football and he will continue to draw out a career. And I think with Ellis, he probably needs to look at that. He probably needs to look at a team who's going to play him, whether it be Swindon. I think we're linked in our division, whether there's a team in the League Two. But I'd love to see Ellis playing regular football somewhere next year. But my feeling is, sadly, it's not going to be here. So, right, 21 minutes have elapsed since I came online, and you've all been listening to me. You haven't been off at looking at the official club site, listening to the interviews from Adam Jackson, our new signing. So I suggest probably it's a good thing to do. I've got to go and cook pork meatballs because my partner said she was going to cook them, but she's still sat there browsing the internet to my right-hand side and hasn't started it yet. So I'm going to finish this hungry. I'm now getting the finger, not in a good way. So anyway, that's it. That's your Stacey West Live. We've discussed the new signing. There'll be a podcast out doubtless later this week where we can get Ben's opinion on this as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. It's you guys that make all of this worthwhile. Thank you to the patrons as well. I know there's some patrons who's watched, but all these fancy graphics and stuff take subscriptions. That costs money. You guys cover that through the patron. So all I have to do is memorize a few stats and stick my face in front of the camera. Let's hope, fingers crossed, I'll be back before the end of the week with another one of these videos where we can look at new signings. But for now, let's not get greedy. Let's not be like a kid at Christmas. Let's not start going and another one. Timothy Eyoma signed on loan. Adam Jackson is an imp. Positive signs again for recruitment. Positive signs from Michael Appleton. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for watching. Cheers.